What if the proof you are waiting for is not outside of you at all, but quietly pulsing in your own chest? You may have spent nights asking yourself, am I manifesting right? Do I even have the ability? That doubt weighs heavy, doesn't it? It feels like a curtain that blocks the light you already sense behind it. I want you to hear me now. You are not lacking the ability. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are forgetting a truth so intimate, so close that it feels almost invisible. Consciousness is the only reality. Neville Goddard said it with the certainty of one who had lived it. Your imagination is not play, it is God in action. Every image, every word, every silent assumption is a seed that the soil of life cannot help but receive. Look at the pattern of your days. Haven't there been moments where you imagined a fear so vividly that it almost became real in your body? Your heart raced, your breath tightened, and your body prepared as if the imagined threat was standing right in front of you. That was not a failure of your mind. That was proof of its power. Joe Dispenza's research confirms what Neville taught decades earlier. The moment you assume a new identity and consciousness, your brain and body begin to reorganize. Neurons fire in new patterns. Chemistry shifts. The body doesn't wait for the outer world. It responds to the inner decree. So manifestation has never been about learning some new trick to attract what is missing. It is about remembering that the signs of power are already alive in you. You don't need to wonder if you can manifest. You already are manifesting. The only question is whether you are awake to the direction of your own inner current. You are not chasing signs of possibility. You are awakening to signs of alignment that are quietly revealing themselves in your daily life. These signs do not scream. They don't arrive in fireworks. They appear in the gentle shifts of your inner world, the subtle transformations that whisper, you are no longer who you were. And this is why today matters. Because today you will recognize the signs you've been overlooking. Today you will see that your path has already begun to bend toward your fulfilled life. There are 8 signs, simple but unmistakable, that show you are already capable of manifesting anything you desire. Not in some far-off future, not once you become worthy. Now, already, here. The proof has been growing within you all along, waiting for your attention. And as you listen, I invite you not only to hear the words, but to let your body feel them, to let your heart soften, to let your mind finally stop searching. Because the seed is already planted. All you are about to hear are the first shoots breaking through the soil of your life, confirming what has been true all along. You can manifest anything. Sign number 1. You stop needing evidence. There comes a point when the endless search for proof begins to feel heavy. You know the cycle well. Checking for signs, waiting for numbers on a clock, scrolling through messages to see if the universe is whispering back, and yet all of that hunting only deepens the sense that what you want is still missing. The pain is real. You crave certainty, but every attempt to grab it slips through your fingers like water. This is the old way of being, the way of living in doubt. Neville Goddard reminded us that evidence never comes before faith. It comes after. The outer world is a delayed reflection of your inner state, never the other way around. When you look for proof in appearances, you are still placing the mirror before the face. But when you trust the unseen, when you allow yourself to rest in the assumption, the mirror cannot help but reflect the new image you carry within. Think of the moment you stopped needing to check the weather before stepping outside, because you could already feel the warmth of the sun against your skin. That is what it means to move beyond the hunger for signs. The certainty is not something you consult outside. It is something that arises within you like a quiet knowing, a calm that says, it is already done. And here is the shift. When you stop searching for evidence, you begin to notice how much lighter life feels. You no longer spend your mornings scanning for angel numbers or trying to decode hidden messages in random encounters. You walk with an inner assurance that no longer depends on symbols. You know, you don't explain it, you don't justify it, you don't chase confirmation. You simply know. This is one of the clearest signs that you have already stepped into your power. The anxiety of proving it to yourself dissolves, and in its place comes a deep exhale, a quiet smile when the old habit tries to creep in, a subtle awareness that you no longer need reality to bow before you in order to trust. You have discovered that faith itself is the only evidence you ever needed. Sign number 2. Inner conversations become more real than outer ones. There is a moment when you notice that what happens in the silence of your mind carries more weight than the words spoken in the room around you. You begin to feel that your true life is not unfolding in the noise of the outer world, but in the secret dialogues you hold with yourself. These inner conversations become vivid, textured, almost tangible, as if you are speaking not to a fantasy, but to a living reality that already exists. Neville Goddard revealed this truth with clarity. Your inner speech is the cause of outer expression. What you tell yourself in the quiet becomes the script that life eventually performs. And science echoes this mystery. Studies show that the brain responds to imagined dialogue as though it were real. Neurons fire, emotions activate, and the body reacts to the inner word with the same sincerity it gives to an external conversation. The mind does not distinguish between the seen and the vividly assumed. You may catch yourself rehearsing the words of a friend congratulating you, and you feel the warmth of their embrace even though the moment hasn't yet unfolded in physical time. You may hear the sound of someone saying, "I'm proud of you," and notice your chest expand with the sweetness of being seen. These are not empty fantasies. They are the roots of creation spreading beneath the surface. Your inner speech is no longer idle thought. It has become the cause from which the outer effect must flow. And this is the sign. When you notice that you no longer replay conversations of doubt, defense, or disappointment, but instead naturally rehearse the joy of fulfillment, you have crossed a threshold. You are no longer chained to the echoes of the old self. You have begun to embody the voice of the new one. Your mind is no longer an enemy to silence. It has become the stage where your future is already applauding you. The outer world will, in time, mirror what you have whispered within. But the true evidence is not that others speak the words. It is that you already heard them in your heart, and they felt more real than anything the world could offer. That is the birth of creation. That is the power of assumption unfolding within you. Sign number 3. Detachment from time pressure. One of the heaviest weights on the shoulders of those who seek to manifest is the silent question that never seems to leave. When will it happen? You feel the desire so vividly, but time stretches like an endless corridor. The more you look down that hallway, the longer it seems to grow. The anxiety of waiting becomes a companion, whispering that perhaps it will never arrive. This is the suffering of the old self, the self that believes manifestation is somewhere ahead, always out of reach. Neville Goddard pierced through this illusion when he declared that creation is finished. Every outcome you can imagine already exists. Time is not the creator. It is only the stage on which the finished work unfolds. When you assume the end in consciousness, the seed is planted. The unfolding of days and weeks is not proof of lack. It is simply the season turning, the soil bringing forth what was already set in motion. Detachment from time pressure is not indifference. It is the peace of someone who knows the end is secure. You feel the certainty of your desire not as a distant hope, but as a present reality that needs no rush. Whether it arrives today or months from now does not disturb you because the arrival is not in question. It is already yours. It is only revealing itself at the perfect rhythm. Think of a traveler who has purchased a ticket for a train. The seat is already theirs. The destination is already decided. Whether the train leaves at noon or at sunset does not shake their trust because the journey is assured. In the same way, when you are detached from time, you no longer beg the universe for speed. You walk calmly because the end is alive within you. This is the sign. The moment you stop bargaining with time, the moment you no longer measure your progress by days or weeks, the moment you rest in the awareness that the outcome is done regardless of how long it takes to appear, that is when you know you have crossed from hoping into knowing. The calendar no longer controls your heart. Eternity has already whispered, "It is finished." Sign number 4. Emotional reactions. Shift instantly. There was a time when the smallest challenge could throw you into a storm. A bill arriving in the mail, an unexpected message, a delay in plans. These were enough to ignite fear or tighten the chest with anxiety. The outer world seemed to hold the strings of your emotions, pulling you back into old patterns of panic, frustration, and doubt. But then something changes. You open the same envelope that once caused dread, and instead of spiraling, you breathe calmly. You even smile, as if some deeper part of you knows the outcome is already secured. This is no small shift. This is the silent evidence that you are no longer living from the old self. Neville Goddard often spoke of the old man and the new man. The old man reacts from fear, lack, and memory. The new man responds from faith, abundance, and assumption. When your reactions begin to shift instantly, it means the center of your identity has moved. You are no longer trying to control your feelings through effort. Instead, a new natural state has taken root. And from that soil, your emotions rise differently. Think of it like changing the operating system of a computer. The same external program might attempt to run, but the new system does not recognize it. The old triggers knock at the door, but they no longer find a place to land. What used to pull you into panic now passes through like a shadow without power. You realize, almost with surprise, that you are not struggling to resist. You are simply different. This is a sign that cannot be faked. You know it in your body. You feel it in your breath, in the way your shoulders no longer tense under pressure, in the way your heart no longer races at the sight of lack. You have rewritten the script not by suppressing emotion but by living from a higher identity. And when your emotional reactions shift instantly, it is the world itself that begins to change instantly too, reflecting the new state you have chosen to inhabit. Sign number 5. You feel gratitude before the manifestation. There is a kind of gratitude that is born from effort, a gratitude that is repeated like a ritual in hopes of convincing yourself that one day things will change. You say thank you with your lips while your heart is still asking, when will it come? That kind of gratitude is heavy because it is tied to waiting. But then something subtle shifts. Without forcing it, without repeating affirmations until you are exhausted, you notice that thankfulness begins to rise on its own. It flows not from the desire to make something happen, but from the certainty that it already has. Neville Goddard revealed that thanksgiving is the highest form of prayer. To give thanks for what you desire before it has appeared in the outer world is to declare that it is already yours in the inner one. It is the proof of faith, the evidence that the new state has taken hold. Gratitude that comes before manifestation is not a strategy. It is the fragrance of fulfillment already alive in you. Imagine walking into your home after a long journey. Even before you set down your bag, you feel relief, warmth, and familiarity. No one has to tell you to be grateful. You feel it because you are already there. That is how gratitude works when you live from the end. It is not a tool to get you somewhere else. It is the natural response of already being home in your desire. This is the sign. When you find yourself saying thank you, not as a plea, but as an exhale of recognition. When gratitude wells up unprovoked, when it colors your day even before circumstances shift, you are already inhabiting the new reality. You thank life because you know the harvest is certain, because you know the seed has already sprouted within. Such gratitude is magnetic. It reshapes your posture, softens your presence, and fills your environment with a frequency that cannot be hidden. You walk differently. You speak differently. The world begins to answer to the state of being that thanks without condition. Gratitude before manifestation is not only a sign, it is the very vibration that makes manifestation inevitable. Sign number 6. You catch yourself living as if, without trying. At first, living in the end can feel like practice. You remind yourself to imagine. You sit in meditation and rehearse the life you desire. You deliberately choose new thoughts when the old ones return. All of this is valuable, but it still carries the sense of effort, of intentionally shifting your focus. Then a moment arrives when you notice something different. You are no longer trying. You catch yourself living as if your desire is already here, and it feels completely natural. This is one of the clearest signs that your identity has shifted. The state you once tried to assume is now the state you naturally occupy. You daydream, but it is no longer about wanting. It is about being. The vision is not a projection into the future. It is a memory of something that already belongs to you. The line between imagining and remembering begins to blur, because you have accepted the new reality so fully that it feels inevitable. Think of slipping into an outfit that fits you perfectly. There is no effort to adjust, no awkwardness, no pretense. You do not have to convince yourself that it is yours. It already belongs to you, and wearing it feels as though it was always meant for you. That is the experience of living as if, without trying. You no longer pretend, you embody. Neville taught that assumption, when persisted in, hardens into fact. But before it hardens into the outer fact of circumstance, it first hardens into the inner fact of identity. And when you are caught living in the end without force, you know this hardening has taken place. The desire has fused with your sense of self. You cannot separate who you are from what you have claimed. This is not about rehearsing or hoping. This is about noticing that your words, your choices, even the smallest details of your day now carry the fragrance of the fulfilled state. You sit at a table and feel as though the version of you who already succeeded is the one eating the meal. You walk into a room and realize that you are already moving like the person who has everything you once longed for. Living as if has become second nature. And when it is natural, manifestation is no longer a matter of if, it is only a matter of unfolding. Sign number 7. Resistance feels pointless. There was a time when you wrestled with appearances. Every obstacle felt like a personal enemy. Every delay a sign that perhaps things were not working. You argued with your circumstances, fought against your own emotions, and tried to force the world into cooperation. That inner battle consumed energy and left you exhausted, as though manifestation was a war you had to win. But then, something within you shifts. Resistance loses its meaning. You realize that fighting shadows only keeps you in the dark. Neville Goddard spoke of the futility of wrestling with appearances. He reminded us that the outer world is nothing more than a reflection of inner assumptions. To struggle with it is like shouting at a mirror, hoping it will change without first altering the face it reflects. When resistance feels pointless, it is because you have finally understood this truth, not with your intellect, but with your being. You no longer waste energy arguing with what is temporary, because you know appearances are already in the process of dissolving. Imagine standing before a storm and no longer panicking. Instead, you watch it pass with a quiet heart, knowing the sky behind the clouds is unchanged. That is the essence of this sign. Resistance fades because trust has taken its place. The urge to fight is replaced by the wisdom to allow. You no longer need to resist reality, because you recognize that what you see is only an echo of an old state. The new state has already been planted, and the echo cannot harm you. This is freedom. To live without the compulsion to argue with what is fading is to reclaim all the energy you once scattered in fear. You discover a calm strength that feels unshakable. Circumstances that used to provoke reaction now pass by like strangers on a street. The silence within you grows louder than the noise around you. And in that silence, creation continues, quietly, faithfully, inevitably. When resistance feels pointless, you know you have crossed into mastery. You no longer battle illusions. You walk in trust, and the world sooner or later bends to the stillness you carry. Sign number 8. Intuition guides without force. There comes a stage in your journey when the path ahead stops feeling like a puzzle to solve and begins to feel like a current that gently carries you forward. You no longer sit in frustration asking, "What step should I take? What if I make the wrong move?" Instead, impulses arrive quietly, naturally. An idea appears in the morning, a phone call comes at the right moment, an inner nudge tells you to turn left instead of right. The guidance is subtle, but it flows with such ease that it cannot be mistaken. Neville Goddard taught that once the end is assumed, the subconscious organizes the means. You do not have to micromanage the details or force opportunities into place. When you dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled, life begins to rearrange itself without your conscious effort. Paths open, connections form, and directions reveal themselves, not because you are pushing, but because the deeper part of you has already declared the outcome. The world is simply responding to the decree. Think of it as sailing with the wind at your back. When you were living in resistance, every movement felt like rowing against a relentless current. But when the state of fulfillment takes hold, you drop the oars. You find yourself moving without strain, guided by an invisible hand that seems to know the way better than you do. What once felt like coincidence begins to feel like inevitability. This is the sign. You trust the nudges because they no longer feel random. You act without hesitation because the impulse carries a quiet authority. You notice that opportunities do not demand struggle. They arrive with a kind of grace. Intuition becomes your natural compass, and it is no longer forced. You are not straining to hear it. You are simply attuned to it, as if the voice of your higher self has finally become the clearest sound in the room. When this happens, you recognize that manifestation is not about control. It is about surrender to the inner state that already knows. Intuition guiding without force is the proof that you have aligned with that state. The journey becomes lighter, the steps clearer, and the sense of destiny undeniable. Sign number 9. mistaking signs for guarantees. When you begin to notice these shifts, gratitude rising before results, intuition speaking clearly, resistance dissolving, it is tempting to treat them as guarantees that everything will unfold exactly as you want, in the exact timing you prefer. This is where many fall back into doubt, because the mind says, if these are the signs, why hasn't it happened yet? The danger is subtle, turning the signs into conditions, when in truth they are confirmations of the law already working through you. Neville Goddard often reminded his students that signs themselves are not the goal. They are evidence of the state, but not the fulfillment of it. To cling to the sign as proof is to fall back into the very trap you left behind, the need for external validation. The real guarantee is not in numbers, dreams, or synchronicities. It is in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, alive within you. That is the true sign, and it requires no translation. Think of the sprout that breaks through the soil after the seed has been planted. Its appearance is not the harvest. It is the undeniable evidence that the seed is alive. If you were to doubt at that moment, pulling up the sprout to check whether the roots are strong, you would only interrupt the process. The sprout does not exist to satisfy impatience. It exists to prove that life is already at work beneath the surface. So it is with the signs you encounter on your path. They are not final promises to hold on to. They are reminders that the law responds faithfully to every state you persist in. When you feel doubt creeping back, remember, the presence of signs does not need to calm you, and their absence does not need to trouble you. The true work is to return again and again to the inner certainty, to let the signs pass as quietly as clouds, while your faith remains anchored in the invisible. This is the wisdom that turns fragile hope into unshakable knowing. You are not chasing after signs to prove the law. You are living as one who knows the law is already at work, whether the mirror shows you evidence today or not. The signs are not the destination. They are only the echoes of a deeper reality already unfolding. Sign number 10. How to strengthen the signs daily. Once you begin to notice the signs of alignment, the question arises, how do you nurture them so they do not fade? The answer is not in adding more strain or in chasing constant reminders. It is in tending to the small daily moments where your inner state is shaped. Manifestation is not a single act. It is the rhythm of consciousness carried through each day, like a melody that plays beneath the surface of everything you do. The first rhythm is the conversation you choose when you wake. Instead of letting your mind replay fears or rehearse old stories, you enter the day with words of fulfillment. You speak to yourself not as one waiting, but as one who already is. This morning dialogue is not about forcing optimism. It is about claiming your identity before the world has a chance to claim it for you. Each word is a thread that weaves the fabric of your reality. The second rhythm is gratitude before rest. As the day ends, you close your eyes not with longing but with thanks. You look back on your desires as though they were already lived, already secured. Gratitude spoken in the past tense becomes a seal on your assumption. It sends the body into sleep carrying the vibration of completion, and in that state the subconscious accepts it as fact. The night becomes fertile ground where your new reality takes root. The third rhythm is the choice you make in ordinary moments. When you catch yourself waiting, when the thought arises that something is still missing, you gently replace it with the thought of fulfillment. You shift from someday to already. This is not a battle with the mind, but a redirection, like guiding a river back into its true course. Each redirection strengthens the state until it no longer needs your constant attention. It begins to walk on its own. Think of it as training a muscle. At first, it requires deliberate effort, but with repetition, strength becomes natural. The I am within you learns to carry the weight of your new identity effortlessly. Soon, you no longer need to remind yourself. It becomes who you are. These daily rhythms are not chores. They are sacred acts of remembering. They are the gentle practices that keep you rooted in the end until the end no longer feels like a vision, but like your only reality. When you live this way, the signs do not just appear occasionally. They become your atmosphere. Gratitude flows without effort. Intuition whispers with clarity. Resistance dissolves before it forms. The signs are strengthened not by chasing them, but by living each day in alignment with the truth they reflect. And in that consistency, manifestation stops being something you wait for. It becomes the only way you know how to exist. When you look back at everything we've explored, The 8 signs that reveal your alignment, you might notice a subtle truth rising above them all. They are powerful, yes, but none of them are the ultimate proof. They are echoes, reflections, glimpses of the deeper reality at work. The only sign you ever truly need is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is the center of it all. This is the root. Every other sign is simply a branch that extends from it. Neville Goddard devoted his entire teaching to this principle. Again and again, he reminded his students not to cling to appearances, not to build their faith upon circumstances, numbers, or fleeting changes. The outer world shifts because the inner state has shifted first. If you anchor yourself in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are anchored in the only place that can never be taken from you. The outer world can delay, distort, or distract, but it cannot deny what is already alive within. Joe Dispenza's research gives us the biological mirror of this truth. The moment you embody a new identity, the body begins to reorganize. Neural pathways fire as though the event were already real. Hormones are released, chemistry shifts, the cells prepare for the new state. Your body in its wisdom does not wait for the outer world to confirm what is possible. It responds now. It lives the future in the present moment. This is why Neville's teaching is not wishful thinking. It is law. When the inner state becomes the reality, life has no choice but to reflect it. Think of it as the difference between standing outside of your home, peering through the window, and actually stepping inside. As long as you are waiting for proof, you are still outside, looking in, hoping to be invited. But when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you have crossed the threshold. You are sitting at the table, resting in your own chair, living from the inside out. The sense of belonging replaces the sense of longing. Gratitude replaces grasping. Faith replaces waiting. And here lies the liberating truth. You are not capable of manifesting because of luck, timing, or some mysterious external permission. You can manifest because you already are the operant power. The creative principle does not hover above you. It breathes within you. Your imagination is God in action, the unseen architect shaping the blueprint of your life. This is why you don't need to chase signs. You don't need to decode hidden messages or search for proof in every shadow. The real proof is the state you inhabit, the vibration you claim, the feeling you refuse to let go of. Imagine a seed buried deep in the earth. It does not question the sun. It does not fear the rain. It does not plead for validation. It knows its nature. And because it knows, the sprout is inevitable. The shoots that rise above the soil are not the source of life. They are the evidence of what was already alive within. You are that seed. The signs are the shoots. But the harvest, the fulfillment, the abundance, the love, is already encoded in your being. So what is left? To stop waiting. To stop bargaining with life. To stop placing conditions on your faith. The only sign you need has been with you all along. The inner assurance that it is done. When you live from this feeling, the world bends, the body aligns, and the path unfolds. You no longer live as a seeker. You live as one who has found. This is the final invitation. Breathe as though it is already real. Walk as though it is already yours. Rest as though nothing is missing. The proof is not in the horizon. The proof is in you. It always has been. It always will be. And when you remember this, you will stop waiting for life to confirm your power. You will begin living as the very source from which creation flows. And before you leave, there is something waiting for you in the pinned comment. Take a moment to look. It is there for a reason. If these words resonated, what you will find there may be exactly what your next step requires. Check it, and allow yourself to see why it was placed there for you.